All right, we're live. We're a couple of minutes late, but that's
Sorry,
okay.
it was my
That's
fault.
okay. No, all good. All good. We love our technology.
Yeah. I have got so much set up here.
I'm on the right network this time, Heather, so hopefully I don't leave you hanging there in midair.
Yes, yes. I just watched that video. I was like, oh, you could have
At
trimmed
least,
it down. Anyway,
nah, it's all good. Include it all. Well, at least we've got Jeff here today who can
hi,
fill
Jeff.
in fill
Hi,
in the
Heather.
gaps. He can fill in the gaps if I start going. Very good. Okay, welcome everybody. Hello, Jeff. Hello, Heather.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, everyone.
Good morning. Good morning. So I'm just tinkering away in the background here, getting this working to Facebook Live, where we're also posting the Facebook Live this morning on our Cloud Integration Partners page. So I just need to get that happening, and then we will be up and running. So maybe a little bit of an intro. I don't think Heather needs too much of an introduction, but we're joined this morning by Heather Smith, famous in the Xero and accounting world. Thank you for your time, Heather.
Thank you.
Absolute pleasure. And Jeff joining us from S&B Consultants. Give yourself a bit of a plug there, Jeff.
Yeah, we're cloud integrators in the retail, wholesale, and hospitality space. And we work together with bookkeepers and accountants to help people navigate their way through finding connected apps.
Perfect. And I'm just going to piggyback off what you said and say, I'm from TradiePad and we do the same thing, but for trades and construction businesses. And together, we have our collaboration of Cloud Integration Partners, which is a collaboration of our two businesses. And we have our Cloudcast today, where we'll be exploring a bit of Heather's world.
Excellent, excellent. Has it gone live on Facebook yet?
It has. It has.
Okay.
So we should be streaming live on the Cloud Integration Partners page. So if you are joining us and you have Facebook, you can jump onto the Cloud Integration Partners page.
And can they leave you a message to say that they're there and they can hear us?
Yes, 100%. Yep, 100%. So very good thing that you mentioned there, Heather. This is very much an interactive Cloudcast, also known as a webinar. So we are, oh no, I've hit. Sorry, I had Facebook playing on my other screen and it was talking back to myself and it was, anyway. So it's very much an interactive Cloudcast. So we welcome questions. So if you have questions, if you're joining us via Zoom, you'll see down the bottom of the screen a little Q&A button that'll allow you to ask questions, and we will be monitoring those as we go through. So please feel free to ask questions as we go.
Fantastic. And I can see it's up there working live. That was why I had the two PCs happening. Can I say something quickly?
Yes, go for gold, Heather.
So I had been in the Xero world for maybe about 18 months, and I remember very clearly going to the Brisbane Xero Roadshow, and Jeffrey gave a talk on stage, and it just blew my mind.
Thank you.
Just covered so much of what was possible and the connected solutions happening in retail, and it wasn't waffle. It was just really, really detailed on all the things that you could possibly achieve in the retail space. And that talk just blew my mind. And I remember coming home and just harassing the ecosystem people. Did you record it? Did you record it? And finally they found me a recording of it. And I watched that recording 4 times. I just took notes and notes and notes and just kept watching it over and over again. So there was just so much information in what was possible to do in the retail space and how using technology you were able to help people. And I remember you had this story about, I think it was an app called Swarm, maybe I'm incorrect, which could monitor when people walked around the retail space, how long they actually spent at different outfits, and thus you knew how to promote it. So both of you, I just picked on Jeff there, but both of you have just been so impressive in what you've done in championing the cloud integration space, and I think you really have grabbed a niche and run with it, and it makes our lives so much easier knowing that you guys are out there. Our
Yeah,
lives being accountants and bookkeepers' lives so much easier, knowing we've got someone reliable like you guys out there.
well, thank you very much. I'm glad that that talk made a good impression. It definitely was a milestone for us because it put us on the map. And, you know, I still use that slide to this day. I never thought that, like, I thought it would be too complicated and like just too much information for people to take in. But the slide has been such a major talking point, not just with in the industry amongst colleagues, and with partners, but also with clients. I use it very regularly with clients these days for them to visualize exactly how apps are connected together. And I guess what's been also really interesting is to see how it's evolved and how now that slide is really a talking point that I use to talk about how the different ecosystems that exist from what we now call operational use apps, as well as the the practice management apps and the shared use apps. So we've actually sort of coined different, I guess, groups of apps that people should be thinking about and how they actually overlap with each other, because bookkeepers and accountants are now being forced to recommend apps. They're forced to become app advisors, but I think there's this fear that they have to know all the apps that are out there. And, you know, I guess by categorizing them and using that slide, it helps define what they should be looking at and what they feel comfortable with versus the operational apps that are more well suited to, I guess, cloud integrators that work hands-on in the operational side of running a business.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll pick on one thing that you said there in terms of your messaging and that you thought that the slide had too much in it. I really believe, and I really like it when people like you go, you guys are intelligent. I am going to give you the most advanced, high-level, advanced, thought-provoking slide, and I'm going to treat you like that you are intelligent. You may not know it yet, but I'm going to talk to you like you're intelligent. And that's one of the, I write the For Dummies books, and I know that they're called For Dummies, but we never think that the person reading them is dumb. We think that they don't know this yet, and we're going to give them the route to learn that. And that's what you did. And I think too many conference speakers talk down to us and talk to us like we are dumb. And we're not dumb. We I hope we're not dumb, you know, and it's nice when someone just goes, okay, you guys are intelligent. I know this, and I'm just going to, bam, put it out there. I'm going to show you the highest level I can show you and talk to that. And it really resonated with a lot of people. So I kind of go, put it out as high and as advanced as you can, but yes, explain it in a simple fashion, but still put it at a high level and talk to people like they're intelligent. And to another thing there that you mentioned, that accountants and bookkeepers are feeling like they're forced. I think there's space, I think there is that messaging that they are being forced to move into app advisory, but I think there's two, they can if they want to. There are options for them just to stay in the place that they are, in terms of offering compliance work.
Yeah, so I guess
I don't want to be in the messaging of they're being forced to do something.
No, but I guess there's an increased awareness that
absolutely,
their apps are out there and they're not going away. And I think that's what we've tried to do with Xero, is to at least make them aware of the options and give them information so that as they choose their path, they're more well informed of what they want to do and what they don't want to do. And so absolutely. I guess that was one of the things that, I was really excited about having you on the show for is maybe like from that time of that sort of that roadshow, how did, tell us a little bit about your journey with you seem to be in the middle of so many things. And I always admire how you keep it all together and keep connected and keep all these different channels of information up to date, and how you gather knowledge and you connect people. I find it really fascinating, and I think you've done a very, very good job of that. But,
thank you very much, Jeff.
Yeah, I think people want to hear, like, well, what was that journey, and what did you learn along the way? What did you what decisions did you make in terms of what you wanted to do and what you didn't want to do?
I could see when I was 14. I worked out that accounting was going to be a subject that I could study that would allow me to travel internationally. And that was the basis of it. I couldn't think of anything else. Like a lawyer, you've got difficulties. A medical person, you've got difficulties. Accounting, it's black and white. It's debits and credits. It's balances. I could travel internationally with that. And that's what has been my focus ever since. Doing the accounting qualification, etc., that enabled me. And I have worked in Canada, England, Singapore, and very easily been able to work that way. Then moving back to... I'm now raising a family, and I realized raising a family, I had a certain amount of time available to me between school pickups, etc., to help people and be an accountant, etc. So I really had to leverage technology really fast to do that, rather than drive to them, waste my time, etc., driving to them. So I became very keen to find out all the ways I could leverage technology and leverage efficiencies so I could maximize my hourly income with the minimum hours I had available to me. I wasn't a person who had 40 hours available to me. I had 25 hours available to me. And I've really found that leveraging technology gives you that ability to have an extra staff member, trusted staff member on board, which is technology. So so that was like kind of the initiator that got me into the space. And I just really liked the lifelong learning aspect of continually learning things, but then I could, perhaps it's just the way my brain works, I could see that this would help that person and this would help that person. And I always enjoyed meeting small businesses, and what would happen is I'd meet a small business and then I'd hear about a solution, and I'd be like, I'd contact the business and say, you need to find this solution, you need to use it and explore it. And it may not be right for you just now, but let's monitor it and then let's swoop in and implement it, because that's going to save you a massive amount of time if you do. But I'm not necessarily all about the massive amount of time. Sometimes it will just be a 10-minute saving a week, but a 10-minute saving a week is better than not saving that time. So I'm all about using apps to find efficiencies, and that can be very small tools like Zapier's, or that can be sort of your larger integrations, your ERP solutions. And I just scan everything that comes across my desk. I subscribe to every newsletter. I listen to all the podcasts and and the webinars all the time. I frequently will listen to an hour webinar every day to monitor what's going on, and I'll have them running in the background. One of the things I've done, and this is perhaps through writing, and this is going to sound really weird and freaky, but I kind of have my brain split so I can think about one thing happening while I'm working on another thing. And so say one of the things is, like, before you would go and go for a long walk, I would put something in my brain that I need to process and then go for the long walk. So by the end of the walk, I've processed what needed to happen then. So that was a bit weird, but that's kind of how I get stuff so much scanned, is using the efficiencies of, I constantly monitor how you can use that side of it. And coming along, I attend all the roadshows, I attend all the conferences, and I try and connect with where the solutions are and how they'll fit with people. And I just have a great interest in how we can help people be more efficient and help educate people.
With all of that information that you're gathering and all of the events and the stuff that you're listening to, you must be seeing some trends that are occurring across different industries. Anything that's really sticking out that is worth noting?
Trends. Well, I think we're extremely fortunate in that we are really far ahead. And one of the trends I'm seeing is that other people are just looking to Australia. And for Australians, that's wonderful. They're looking to Australians. We're years and years ahead of other businesses, etc. And I'm seeing people talking about things, but they're not coming into place. So we're hearing about blockchain, whether that's going to come into place, etc. But in terms of trends, we could talk about the Xero Small Business Insights report that came out, and I did read that in quite a lot of detail. And one of the things that this is a report published by Xero, and because Xero actually have access to a massive amount of data. They can kind of anonymously go in and aggregate it and provide empirical evidence on what's happening. And what's very interesting that they pulled out of that report was that businesses connected with apps are growing and their revenue is higher than businesses not connected with apps. So that's very interesting. One of the trends I'm seeing is the bookkeepers and the accountants are more interested in apps. And I kind of think that I'm not a tax accountant, and a lot of the management accountants over the years, we've kind of lent down into the bookkeeping, lent across into the bookkeeping space because the data presented to us was incorrect. It was, oh, bye, Clinton. Oh, there you're putting up. I thought that was going to be a blank space there.
I thought I was going to leave you hanging.
One of the things is, especially here in Australia, is we're bogged down in tax. And I never touch tax, but we are really bogged down in tax. And the management accountants wanted to show businesses information. They wanted to help their businesses drive decisions through data, but weren't able to because the files were just incorrect. Over and over again, I'm hearing their files are incorrect. So they kind of moved into the bookkeeper space in terms of they were trying to get the files up to date and more accurate. Now we are far more moving into having accurate data files. So I think there's a real opportunity for the experienced and educated bookkeepers to actually take over that space and really move into business intelligence. That's an area that I really think is quite exciting. And it doesn't need to be a $7,000 a month retainer offering a 40-page wham bang monthly management report. It can be small insights that just push that business owner into a better place, and it can grow as is needed. But you've brought up the Small Business Insights report, and if you move to the executive summary page, I think it's the third page there. So what's really interesting on this is if you sort of see the highlights, middle column down the bottom. Overall, in 2017 financial year, firms on Xero using apps grew revenue by 5.5% compared to revenue growth of just 3.6%. So we're looking at revenue, we're looking at top line, we're not looking at profit, but that is still significant. If you can say, well, look, the adoption of this solution is probably going to save you time, it's going to save you efficiencies, but it's also potentially going to grow your revenue, and that's really exciting. And there's some other sort of interesting stats in that report there.
Yeah, some of the other stats that I found quite interesting was that the average number of connected apps to Xero was only 1.6. And I found that interesting because obviously I have a very different point of view, being a cloud integrator, because we would think, our clients use 5 to 8 apps, but it did highlight that, of the different industry types, the verticals that we specialize in, retail, wholesale, hospitality, 40% of them use app adoption. They're involved in app adoption. So I think it does really, really highlight to us that, particularly small and medium businesses, actually large businesses had the most uptake of apps, probably because they had more staff resources to be able to take on board change. But
that's interesting that you say that.
Yeah, but Nano was the smallest percentage, 0 to 4 employees, but small and medium were also very high. So I think all of those factors are accurate in terms of what we see. We deal mostly with small to medium businesses and nano as well, but the amount of uptake in our industries we've seen very, very high, and I think the large reason why Xero have focused on the verticals that we specialize in.
Yeah, absolutely, and it makes a big difference there. So if you Clinton's just got up one of these, that figure 7 there. Yep. Apps are increasing targeting particular industries that they share a common pain point in, and so we've got hospitality. That's one of the areas that you work in, or is it retail trade? So yes,
hospitality.
So if we just talk, why don't we just quickly talk to that graph there, so people can may not have spent some time there. So in terms of the hospitality, is a significant portion of them using clerical, 22% using a business intelligence solution there, a very small using job scheduling and invoicing, but then a larger percent using rostering. I do think that perhaps that was just maybe miscategorization, and that pink might actually be rostering. What do you think, Jeff?
Yeah, I think so.
I imagine there'd be a lot of job scheduling and invoicing in a hospitality business.
Yeah, unless they're doing catering, maybe.
Possibly.
And then grey, the managing accounts. I'm not exactly sure what falls into managing accounts. And then 20% point of sale. So massive adoption in the hospitality industry.
Managing accounts is probably like account customers, like just managing their
supplier.
Like data daddies or something like that. Yeah, but that's really, and if if you're walking into a hospitality industry, you just got to say this is what other people are doing. That makes it really easy to explain what solutions that you need to have in there. And then what if we look at what area do you think the tradies fall under in that, Clinton?
Under construction, most definitely.
Okay, construction. There you go.
Yeah, and you can probably pick that from the big pink block there for job scheduling and invoicing.
Fantastic. And probably the orange should be really job scheduling as well on that.
Yeah, well, there is some rostering that's required for, you might have a client who's, or a business who has staff going to different job sites where they need just the rostering piece, so they're directing the workers where to go. But we have that discussion all the time to say, well, that's one piece of the puzzle. That's one of the functions that's required. But if you don't have the other functions, then you're not really completing the puzzle. So it comes down to, I guess, what the business is looking for, what the pain points are that they're looking to address, and where they are on the journey, whether they're looking at it from a holistic perspective to say, yes, I need rostering, but that should be part of my job management because I want to track my time and my costs against a job or a project, and rostering is just one piece of that. So it depends on the business.
Do you think it's a mistake for a business, such as a trade business, to go in and just try and solve one problem? Do you think that they should sit down with someone like an integrator and work through all problems in one state, or all issues in one go?
I think it's worth identifying what they want the end goal to be, because you can otherwise you can go off down a bit of a tangent, which gives you a bit of an isolated or a siloed solution that's not going to provide benefit to the greater good of the business.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
having that end goal in mind of this is what we want to achieve in the future, and sometimes there's a bit of education that's required to say this is what's possible, and that's where you open people's minds and open their eyes and they say, oh wow, I didn't know I could do all of that stuff in conjunction with what I'm looking at with rostering for this example. So a little bit of communication about what is available and what's possible and what others are doing, like you said before, can I guess give a bit more focus on what that end goal is going to look like. And then there's absolutely nothing wrong with saying, okay, let's pick the low-hanging fruit that is, in this case, it's rostering, because we've got a real pain point with guys going to the appropriate jobs and knowing what they need to do and that kind of thing. So yes, you can definitely address a single feature or a single function as long as it's part of the greater plan for the business in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I completely agree with that. I completely agree with brainstorm, whiteboarding session, get something out there, but go for the low-hanging fruit to find yourself capacity initially, because it's all about finding capacity to implement capacity, to find capacity to implement capacity.
Yes.
But this is a really good chart if accountants and bookkeepers are talking to their clients, to actually put in front of them and just talk to and explain, and then without spruiking you two guys too much, pull you guys in to assist them with the next stage of that process.
Like I said before, I think it's about education, because we're dealing, especially within construction, we're dealing with things that a lot of business owners have never had to even think about or deal with before. So how can they make a decision on something if they don't understand it and they don't know about it? So we kind of really take that educator role in the initial instance of saying, okay, let's look at why you would move to the cloud and what some of the tools are out there that they can do and how connecting it all together is going to benefit. Because then a decision's being made on, okay, I understand why and how this is going to work. I'm ready to make a move.
Yeah, and it is interesting how so much of what we do is education, and so that's one of the reasons I watched that video of Jeff so many times to get the words he was using and to understand the messages and what each solution was going to do, so I could then be able to talk to clients and use that messaging there. So it does. Accountants and bookkeepers didn't necessarily start in a position of educating, but this is actually empathy combined with education, combined with this knowledge, can really help you grow your clients.
Yeah, I think also another thing they mentioned in the report is the two main drivers for app adoption are growth and crisis. Funny that. So, yeah. In terms of how we approach a client, we absolutely, like, a lot of them will come to us because they're in dire straits of fixing a problem. But it gives us the opportunity to have a big high-level discussion about the big picture. And what we're finding is, I just had one yesterday where the client just outright said to me, I wish I would have found you guys 2 years ago, because a lot of people do sort of use that crisis and just put a Band-Aid on that one little problem.
Yeah.
And they really appreciate when you take the time to have a big picture discussion, even though your intention or your strategy to deploy that isn't, let's do it all at once. And most often it isn't that. That's not the best way to do it. But just to know that you've addressed all of the decisions across the entire business, and that you're going to put them on a path that is going to get them to where they need to be. Yeah,
absolutely. And goodness, you don't want to be making a lot of decisions around crisis time. You want to, you want it around growth or perhaps lifestyle, but crisis is a very difficult time. I know that about 3 months ago, I volunteered for the Commonwealth Games, and I got my roster, and I was like pretty much working 30-hour weeks for it, which I was a bit shocked about. And so I just engaged this guy to do all of these, implement all these Zapier, which are, if this happens, then that happens. And so that kind of bounced back to save me some even more time in my business, because I was like, oh, how can I juggle working and this volunteering, which is kind of nicer than crisis, but something I had to deal with.
It's driving you to change, because forcing you, I should say, forcing you to change. And I guess maybe go and explore some other technology that can help that you wouldn't have necessarily looked at before.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I'm pretty savvy with tech, and so I was like, wow, so let's see how much more I can squeeze out. And I managed to achieve another 5 hours savings a month on
wow.
Just having that other go. Yeah, so that was I implemented about 5 different things at that time. So I was like, wow.
I have a thing about the concept of saving time, in that we always talk about saving time,
and
but I don't think we actually save time, because I don't feel like I'm ever less busy. I think we just we cram more things into the same amount of time.
Yeah. Well, I crammed volunteering in, which is a good thing. But yeah. But I do, I'm about lifestyle, so get my Zap to do something so I can have a better lifestyle.
Especially when there's family involved.
Yeah, absolutely. Or Prince Charles was involved.
Before we turn off the report, anything else that we wanted to have a look at in the Small Business Insights report, Heather?
No, you've pulled out sort of the 2 things. I just wanted to really surface that, so people who are listening in are going, okay, these are some easy charts that I can talk to my clients about. And we know clients, we know some people really like colours, and it's easy to talk to. So hopefully we can help people with some messaging there.
So,
and it's empirical evidence. It's data-driven evidence to help you make a decision.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to draw on is that it absolutely, I guess, validates all the things that we were talking about in that talk, in the roadshow, which is quite exciting. That you're sort of seeing it come to fruition. But I think the point I want to make is that, yeah, absolutely. We looked back then at how cloud apps connected to one another can help businesses save time. The report talks that the average business owner has 50 to 70 tasks a day. So that's the main problem.
Yes, that's a really interesting part. I think it's up a few pages. That's really interesting. All those, it's text. It's not graphs.
Yeah, so that's absolutely one of the benefits that we always look at are the little 1%ers that integration can help people save time doing administration tasks. But I guess the point I really wanted to make is that is really now, like, this report validates that this is where we're at, that cloud adoption and integration is the here and now. What I want to talk about now is where is it headed, right? So what is this next step? And one thing that I've really started to get my head around recently, from XeroCon actually, because there's been lots and lots of talk around machine learning, business intelligence, artificial intelligence, augmented reality, all these terms that seemed like, the future is here, Terminator is coming. There's some people that are fearful of it, other people that are really excited about it. And I guess my comment on that, and the thing that I really sort of got my head around, is that while we're concentrating on the here and now, which is connecting apps, which is helping people save time, reduce double entry and clerical tasks, what it's really doing is it's connecting us to untouched, very raw data. And it's always been Rod's vision that Xero become more than just an accounting platform, but it become the hub of a source of all sorts of information, not just financial related, but and I think that's where, because when a bookkeeper and accountant may look at this report, they might go, okay, yeah, I see the businesses grow by adding apps. I see that it saves the business owner time. But what does it mean to me? Like, how do I leverage this information, and how do I present that to a client? Like, how is it relevant to me and how I interact with this client? And I think the answer to that is that, and one of the things we highlight in our cert camps is that it's the accountant and bookkeeper's biggest responsibility that they're building their data file, right? If you're managing a business that only has 1.6 apps connected to the Xero file, the amount of good data that's flowing into that Xero file is very, very minimal, right? And it's not really going to put the business owner in a position to leverage all the benefits of getting advanced loans, being able to have access to better cash flow funding, and that's sort of the vision that Xero has. And when we look at business intelligence and machine learning, I find it really, really fascinating, actually. And I can really, really see, because this is one of the things you mentioned about, Heather, and that you're passionate about, is how do you make better business decisions, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that the thing that is going to absolutely be leapfrogged is that we've seen the trend in how connected apps can bring data in, and we can present that in dashboards. And dashboards has definitely been a very, very popular tool that we've really embraced, because we've never been able to see this amount of data in these type of beautiful
in this sort of time frame.
Yeah, correct.
In such a timely manner. Yeah.
And I think what artificial intelligence will do in machine learning is it's going to provide another business tool to the business owner and to the financial advisor in order to take all that information, all that data, and uncover real-time business decisions, like allow the business owner to be able to make those business decisions and find the little key points in their data that they would normally just glance over because they're already trying to process too much information.
Yeah. Well, you do wonder whether, if you got a set of connected solutions and you inject machine learning in there, whether you could get a business to run completely on its own, making decisions on its own without any human interaction.
Well, that's I don't know that. See, I don't really see machine learning in a sense of it making decisions on your behalf, because that still requires there's other empirical evidence and reasons that may lie outside of the data.
Yes.
Right. But what I think it should do is allow you the technology to find the data, to present it to a business owner to make the better business decisions. Right. So recognize trends and be a bit more proactive. And so I'm going to bring up a really, this is really funny, and I've been using Facebook Marketplace.
Oh, yes. So have I.
What have you been buying?
Yeah, okay. Well, no, this is the thing, and I want to raise it because it's something that is accessible to everyone. And the penny really dropped for me in terms of how machine learning works when I started using Facebook Marketplace, because typically I would have used something like eBay or Gumtree to, sell items and buy items. But when you compare and contrast Gumtree versus Facebook Marketplace now, it is cut and dry. That's the difference between machine learning and non. Because Gumtree is the traditional type in keywords, and it's very, you have to engage with the software. Whereas with Facebook Marketplace, it learns and it starts to put things in front of you that are relevant to the way that you are looking for items to buy or sell. And it really works. And because it works, people get drawn to it. And like that, in a second, people transition from one platform to the next. The adoption rate moves over very, very quickly. There's absolutely no loyalty to those other technologies once they become obsolete. And I think that's the thing that people really need to understand about machine learning, is that it's not coming, it's here. Like it's around us. We just don't recognize it and acknowledge it as machine learning. We don't understand it yet. Have you guys had a similar experience? Have you used Facebook Marketplace and went, oh, that's...
Yeah, we've my mother's been downsizing, so we've been selling some unusual items, and we're listing them in all three places, and they're just going at full price on the marketplace.
That's right.
Really quickly, like in 20 hours they've gone, and we're talking about unusual items as like, and they're coming along, and we've moved a lot of unusual items.
So imagine if you use that, like just change the context of that, where a retailer wants to be able to sell products to his audience and find and put those products in front of the right products, and use the technology to extract the data and be more deliberate in how he's communicating to clients. I mean, the concept translates to all different industries. It may start in a place like Facebook Marketplace, but you can see how that would transpire across different industries.
And it allows you to niche down even further, because you're finding things across the world or the internet, etc. And it allows you to be really specific in those keywords and what you're searching for. Yes, they're doing well tracking us on the Facebook.
And I mean, it is a bit spooky in a sense, but they've got the data. They've got the data with regards to geographic location, gender, interests, and that's what, I guess, for us, when we look at marketing, it's how do you communicate to customers in a meaningful way that is related to the way they interact with your business. I mean, that's always been our goal. And I think the most exciting thing in our industry, in retail, is how local businesses, small businesses, can leverage the data today to do very focused retarget marketing. There is technology out there now that can do what Flybuys is doing with their loyalty program, and that's really exciting, because now you've got small businesses that can be on the same platform as big businesses, through using technology.
And I was having the discussion with Heather last week about, in some instances, small businesses are overtaking the larger businesses in terms of data availability and the reporting that they have and automation, and the bigger businesses are looking down saying, what is going on here? And we should be ahead of these guys.
I think in a lot of aspects, our world is going to push the power down to the smaller person, the smaller entity, which is a good thing.
Yeah, well, they definitely have the advantage of being agile. We've got some businesses that come in and they open up a new concept or a new business or a new brand, and they just, because it's a blank slate, they just go, yeah, we want that. We're going to start this way. We've seen other businesses doing it, and from the get-go, they're operating more efficiently than, you know, people that have been running their business for, you know, decades.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how does this discussion help our audience? How can this information assist bookkeepers and accountants, and what challenges, how do we help approach those challenges that they're facing day to day with having these conversations with their clients and helping them find solutions?
In terms of, I think that the bookkeepers and accountants need to stay educated about it and keep aware of things such as attending your courses and hearing webinars like this, and identifying solutions that they feel are going to, identifying pieces of the puzzle that need to be fixed, and seeing if there are solutions out there perhaps that can fix them. But sometimes it's a matter you don't even know that was a problem until you see that there's a better solution out there. So it's staying aware of it. But I think that like what you've done, niching is the best way to do this. And you can very much niche in what you are passionate about. And I know we have a lady here in Brisbane called Kelly Shard, who's just opened up an accounting practice that's niching in the medical industry. And it makes it so easy for us because we're just like, okay, if I get a medical client, she's going to be able to deal with that medical client far better than I am, because that's her focus. She's going to have a better relationship with the app providers. She's going to have a better understanding of all the tax and laws around it. I know they will get a better service with her, so I will move them in her direction. And I think that niching is also an excellent marketing technique, as well as assisting your customers and your clients.
We go back to what we're talking about with Facebook, the whole targeting and the level of detail that you can get to with the types of viewers that you want to appeal to and that you want to communicate to is unbelievable nowadays.
Yeah.
So having that real focus and that real niche means that you can pinpoint that real sweet spot client that you're looking for.
Yeah, absolutely. Would you, one of my areas of interest is the business intelligence tools. Would you like to have a discussion around that before?
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. Just before we move on though, I might just highlight as well, we were talking about the that identifying the issues within the business and knowing where to look for the solutions. Might be a good time to raise that concept, Jeff, that we talk about with the whole GP and specialist kind of approach to things. And I guess Jeff, you can talk about it. You're the guru on this thing.
Are you the GP or the specialist?
Well, we're using this analogy because I think when we created Cloud Integration Partners, it was really a move for us to help bookkeepers and accountants find and connect with the most qualified, I guess, people that had experience working with these apps hands-on. You know, there were large marketplaces of apps, but the marketplaces weren't helping bookkeepers and accountants decide which app is right for their client, right? And so we built this partner program, sort of just thinking only as far as we could see. And we thought the whole goal here is make it easier to connect them to certified experts. But in doing that, we realized that a lot of people thought that the partner program was just more of a referral program. And there were some people that weren't understanding, because cloud integrators were a new type of consultant, you know. They didn't really have a good grasp of what we did and how to work with us. So the analogy we're using now is this concept of a GP and a specialist, that the bookkeeper and accountant should really own the relationship with the client. They should be the first point of contact and be across the whole well-being of their client, but be able to identify what are the high-level issues, you know, what are the symptoms that are causing problems within the business, even if they're not across what the actual, I guess, how to resolve the issue is, or what the prescription might be. They should have a group of specialists that they lean on when there are specific problems within the business.
Yeah.
And the GP and the specialist should work together to come up with a solution and a long-term plan on how they achieve those things together. So it's really a partnership as opposed to a referral program where you're just, you know, handing over details and never engaging with that client again. And I think that sort of analogy is resonating really well. with bookkeepers and accountants, because they're understanding that they can't be sort of across all the add-ons, and nor do they want to be. That's sort of where a lot of their fear comes from, and their apprehension in getting involved in app advisory is that they're not wanting to recommend apps that they're not 100% across, which is understandable, right? So when they get the concept of having a network of specialists, it doesn't stop them from still being able to be level 3 app advisors on things that they're very comfortable with, like Receipt Bank or Spotlight Reporting or Futurely, you know, things that they work with day in, day out. But for things that fall outside of their scope, they should really, you know, use a cloud integrator or a network of cloud integrators to be able to combine the services and expertise to their client.
Yeah, absolutely. And that sort of ties in with, we're all becoming a bit smaller, but we can all niche and specialize, and then we can sort of connect into connectivity, having that trust and reliability, which is makes everything better for us.
The network, all about the network. Awesome. Okay, so talking about apps that you're confident and specialize in, we started talking about business intelligence apps, and that's stuff that we as cloud integrators, especially within construction, we don't get involved in any of that kind of stuff. It's not our specialty. So we'd always handball that back to the financial advisor to be giving input on that type of thing, whether it's reporting or it's business intelligence. So what are your thoughts there, Heather?
So in terms of what I'll do is just generally talk through a flow through very quickly, mention a few things here. So in terms of, I think it's really important to have some awareness of business intelligence so we can assist the client in making better decisions. And this really starts basically in the actual file and the structure of the chart of accounts. So make sure that the chart of accounts is separated so it's generating useful information. Don't necessarily use a generic one. Customize it to actually access the data that you want out of it. Within that, there are some great abilities to manipulate the reports in Xero, if we specifically talk Xero, but there are other solutions do that as well. And there is the option to use tracking to actually track, to an extent, small ways, track how various areas, and to also use the project feature within Xero. So there is some simple things within Xero that you can actually use to surface data, but it really starts with your chart of accounts. So from that point, I then look at Excel manipulation and just being able to download all of your information from Xero and then manipulate it in an Excel spreadsheet to perhaps surface further information. One of the really easy tools to use there is DataDear, that just sort of permanently stays connected to your Xero file. And you can then, you might have a situation where the client actually just looks at the Excel report, which is showing him the data, him or her, the data that they need. And it may just be in specific areas that will help them in making decisions. From there, I would talk to a solution like considering having a cash flow forecasting solution in place. So if you look at a solution like Float, which again plugs in very simply to Xero, and what that helps you do is generate a detailed 13-week forecast. So not a 5-year forecast, but a 13-week forecast that helps you understand if you've got high points or low points. And as was mentioned before, whether you need to potentially look at getting loans in place, or whether you need to potentially chase some outstanding debts so you can massage your cash flow there. So a solution like Float really helps you there. And everything I mentioned, bookkeepers can do, accountants can do. There's no, sometimes people go, oh, am I legally allowed to? Yes, you are legally allowed to do that. Then moving over, you mentioned a few solutions there like Futurely, Fathom, Spotlight. There's another solution that I've been looking at the moment called Mouse, M-A-U-S. And what's interesting about them is that they have both the software that plugs in and it will assist you in doing client gap need analysis, but they also have a deep educational resource to actually, so if you are looking to get into that advanced business advisory space, they have a deep educational resources there to assist you in moving into that space. And I actually went last week to a conference and we did this gamification, and we had, you guys would have loved it. We had all of these scenarios in place, and we had to say how much of the products we were going to produce and what markets we were going to produce them for, and how it would impact with all the other teams on the day. And so that's really easy, going to your chart of accounts through to sort of advanced advisory level. So I just wanted to throw some tools out there for people to consider, and you just eat this one bite at a time.
Yeah, don't try and take the whole thing.
Yeah.
Just going back to what you were mentioning about Mouse with the workshops and the gamification case study you were doing, how was Mouse leveraging, or how was Mouse involved in that, the Mouse as the product? How was that involved for those case studies?
It has various clients, like forecasting and scenarios that you can place in there, and then you actually implement the information and manipulate it through to see what you're going to generate from how much production you're going, how much the production is going to cost, whether you're going for package, like it was split into packaging, product and marketing, and what you were going to massage into that element, and how everything impacted both in a macro and microeconomic area in what you did was also impacted by how other people were reacting. So you're getting forecasting, three-way forecasting in there, but also working clients through scenarios, like sitting and actually talking. Should we improve the product? Should we improve the packaging? Whether the accountant's necessarily going to get into that is another question, but it is a topic that it's something that they should be discussing with someone. And if the accountant starts that conversation, maybe that's a good thing.
So I came across Mouse years ago through some of the business coaches that we were working with in conjunction. We work with a lot of business coaches now.
Okay, fantastic.
Yeah, it's I guess a really good relationship, because we're putting the tools in place that can collect the data and feed the data into the various systems like Mouse, so it can collect the information that the business didn't have available before, and I guess give the coach a lot more information around the management reporting and visibility of the business, and educating the client to be able to process the data and know that there's analytics within the business, so that the coach can have much more impact. So we're going to do some case studies on the client journeys that we've had in conjunction with business coaches, because they just go through the roof.
Fantastic.
So Heather, one question, like in terms of your scope of advisory work, you're very specific in doing just business intelligence advisory work. Is that right?
What I now really focus on is providing education to the mass market. So I have a general awareness, and I'm just working in my various platforms to educate the market. My speciality is management reporting. That's where I've come through since I was like 21. but I'm trying to provide education on a mass scale. So my YouTube channel just hit 1 million views. So that's kind of
wow, amazing.
Yeah. So yeah, look, it's interesting, and trying to help people educate, providing the education and helping people educate, and doing it everywhere, doing it on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, newsletters, podcasts, webinars like this, trying to provide education to people to help them on their journey, just like you helped me on my journey.
Well, I mean, I think it's so amazing, because your role now and what you've evolved into is really a byproduct of the tools that are available to you now. You know,
I use over 200 in my business.
200. Wow.
Are they all active?
Yeah. It's like 220. I just implemented Go Cardless. I printed out the list, and I sat down with Steph Hines, and she went through all of them, and she checked off. She agreed with them all. Yeah. But some of them are micro and some of them are macro, and yeah. So I'm blowing out that Xero stat totally.
I think they'll just, you're off to the side.
Yeah. Hashtag weird. Yeah, I use 70 of them are marketing tools.
Wow. Oh, yeah. We've had a question come through. So there haven't been any questions until now, which is pretty amazing, because we've been talking about some cool stuff. The question is around, do you think the bookkeeping and accounting role is becoming like business coaches through advisory? So bookkeepers and accountants moving into that kind of business coach role?
Very controversial question. Thank you for asking it. I think my definition of this is it's a management accountant. That's what a management accountant does. And so it may be that you want to lean towards a management accounting role in terms of offering advisory. So the business coach per se that had no qualifications, educations or experience, who sat themselves down and said, I'm a business coach, and was charging my clients 5 times more than I was charging them, very much concerned me. And if someone is using a business coach, I want them to be using someone who understands business, but also understands the data that they're using in that business to assist them in growing. And I think coming from an experienced bookkeeper role or experienced accountant role, if you want to move away from tax, then yes, evolve yourself. And we may call it a management accountant, we may call it an advisor, we may call it a business coach. But I want that business coach to have experience and not only use the data, but understand and be able to use the data.
Mm-hmm. And make sure that the right data is being collected and being used the right way.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. One of the things that we talk, we naughty accountants talk about is, imagine if you got all of the clearing accounts of Xero and added them all together, what that figure would look like. Because it should be zero, but I bet it isn't. Yeah. And we also were thinking, because based on the data access, we should be able to add all the suspense accounts together, and they should be zero, and I bet they're not.
Yeah.
Take note, Xero. Put that into the next Small Business Insights report.
just got off their Christmas card list. But look, that is one of the things. Okay, that's possibly, looking at the future, one of the things that does concern me the most in terms of integrations happening. If it hasn't been done properly, if it hasn't had someone professional in there, stuff can just be going into that clearing account and no one's looking at it. And I'm now hearing people come to me saying, oh my goodness, this clearing account has had nothing cleared out of it in 2 years. And it's all of the data is unreliable because of that. So that is a concern for me, with people either not using proper integrators, or this sometimes, as perhaps it's happened and you've come across it, the integration breaks and needs to be reset. That causes an issue, and it's not looked at properly.
Okay, well, 11 o'clock, we're bang on time. Anything in closing?
Looking forward to having you come up to Brisbane and run your Cloud Integrator session, or Cloud Integrator.Partners session.
Yeah,
at River City Labs.
Yes, we are at the labs. So we're having, we've got Sydney between now and then. So we're having the Cloud Integration Partners App Advisory Certification Camp in Sydney on the 13th of November. And then in Brisbane on the, Jeff, 5th. I'm going to handball this to you.
5th of December, I believe.
Goodness.
I hope I get that right. Jeez, you put me on the spot.
Yeah.
We're so focused on the next one.
Yeah, well, so, Brisbane's the best, so we're looking forward to
we leave the best to last.
The brightest and the best are up here in Brisbane, so we're looking forward to that session. I know a lot of people I know have booked in for that, so looking forward to that. And I hear you're wearing Santa outfits for it.
Oh, no.
Oh, here we go.
We'll see.
Well, you never know. We're always full of surprises, that's for sure.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you, Heather. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Always good catching up.
There's one more question. One more question. Do we have time for one more question? I think so. We have to be very, very quick.
Oh, look, it's Kelly Shard has responded. She's obviously heard us talking about her.
Do you have an app that manages your 200 plus apps? Yeah, the best app of all.
Yeah, nothing more close to that.
Yeah, it is the best app, and you've got to, and that's what I was talking about before. You have to consider brain health, and there are ways to do that, and there is things out there to assist you with brain health, and that's important.
Yeah, there is. There's some great great apps for mindfulness that I've been exploring recently. That I think
on your ski slopes, your tax deductible ski slopes.
Don't be jealous. You'll be there too. Awesome. All right. Thank you, Heather. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, Heather. It's been lovely.
Thank you so very much. Feel very grateful to be included. It was very exciting.
Yeah, it's really, really nice to have a sort of you know, I think a lot of people benefit from hearing these conversations. We always have really good catch-ups, and that's the purpose of these Cloudcasts, is for people to get some insight on some of the industry discussions that we have amongst ourselves.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for inviting me. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Heather.
See you.
Have a good day. Cheers.